Welcome back, everyone, to Servant Leaders Unplugged. I'm Jay.
And I'm Terry.
And we are so happy to have you joining us yet again.
Absolutely.
So, we're going to start with a little icebreaker.
Oh, we're just getting straight into it. Okay.
Straight into it. If a genie granted you one wish, what would it be?
If a genie granted me one wish, so I don't get 3 wishes, just one.
Nah, just the one. You can't wish for more wishes, obviously.
Okay. And it's like the normal genie stuff where like you can't wish for like somebody to fall in love with you, can't raise anybody from the dead.
Yeah. what you trying to wish for?
No. I'm just saying like those are just the rules.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like going off of like Aladdin rules, right? What would I wish for? Okay. Unlimited Dutch Bros gift card.
Really?
Just like never ending. Just like always be able to like cash it in and just never like bottomless. I'd say just like off the top of my head without putting too much thought into it. What about you, Jay? What would be your one wish?
I would wish to become a anesthesiologist.
Okay.
Yep, just right now.
So are you saying like with all of the knowledge of how to do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, equipped with the skills and knowledge to do my job well.
I thought for a second you just meant have the job position,
but
not even know how to do it.
Know how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's kind of weird, but it is.
Yeah, that is.
It is
okay.
what I want to be.
Hey, but it's your wish. So, all right. So welcome everybody again to Servant Leaders Unplugged. We're so happy to have you joining us. And today we are talking about Joseph, right? Joseph from the Bible.
Mm-hmm. The Bible.
And that's the word for me.
That was Corny.
No, that's how the song goes.
Oh no.
You can't call me corny if that's how the song goes.
That's a corny song too.
Oh, okay. Or well, what's the other one? I am a C. Yeah. I am a CH. CHRASTIAN.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we're getting off track.
Sorry. I'll spell
So we're talking about Joseph, and I want to apologize in advance if I accidentally say Jacob. I'm low-key ADHD, so I'm going to get them confused at least a little bit. But we're talking about Joseph and just his story and servant leadership. So without any further ado, let's just get straight into it. So to talk about the story, we're starting in Genesis 37, and we're just going to go through pretty much like 14, 15 chapters of Genesis. So if you're following along in your Bible, we're just going to be generally covering the chapters and going over them. So to start in Genesis 37, we're looking at Joseph, and he was born to Jacob, later called Israel, and Rachel. They were now Joseph was his father's favorite among all the 12 sons at the time. And then at 17, man, something caught in my throat. Sorry. At age 17, Jacob gave Joseph a special richly ornamented robe, often called the coat of many colors. And Joseph shared 2 dreams he had, implying he would one day rule over his family, and it was the sheaves bowing down to his sheaf, and the sun, the moon, and the stars bowing to him. Now, this kind of fueled intense jealousy among his brothers, and it even says that his father, rebuked him to a degree, but he didn't necessarily say anything about it, and he didn't hold that against him. He just kind of kept it in mind. Well, when we continue to look at Genesis 37, it says that while checking on his brothers in the field, his brothers plotted to kill Joseph, but thanks to Reuben, they threw him into a dry cistern instead. And then they sold him as a slave to Midianite/Ishmaelite traders for 20 pieces of silver. Now, Jay, I'll put up an image right now to show you just kind of the modern terminology for what I'm about to say. But Jay, can you imagine being so dripped out that your brothers are like, yeah, we got to kill you, bro. We got to kill you. Like, that's insane.
I mean, hey, I've been that drippy before, though. I understand that.
But, like, bro literally had so much aura from, like, his coat and from the dreams that he was telling his brothers about that his brothers literally wanted to kill him for it.
Over the drip is crazy. But that's you know, it's history. It's history.
Okay. Okay.
Need to say it was history.
But that's all, folks. Like, what are you talking about, man?
Hey, listen, leave me alone. That's history.
You just want to throw in a fun fact there for us. What are you talking about, bro?
Doesn't matter, I guess.
Okay, but yeah, I was thinking about that while writing that. And I found that image while just scrolling on TikTok. But I'm just like, dang, they really killed him just because he had a few extra colors on his coat. That's crazy. But when I was reading through my Bible, and I have a study Bible that like gives little like excerpts about like each verse and like its importance or like facts about it, and it says that like why it was so important that it had multiple colors is because back then certain colors were extremely rare or like very expensive. So the more colors that you had on like your garments, the more expensive it was. So Joseph's like outfit or coat he would have had probably would have been very expensive. So that's most likely why, you know, his brothers were jealous of him for that reason. But to continue, so again, they sold him off for 20 pieces of silver. Also, if somebody sold me off for 20 pieces of silver, I'd be like, dang, I'm not even worth like 25. That's crazy. But they sold him off, and then the traders took him to Egypt, where he was sold then to Potiphar, captain of the Pharaoh's guard. And then back where Joseph's brothers were, they dipped Joseph's robe in goat's blood and deceived Jacob into believing a wild animal had killed him. And Jacob was very upset by this and mourned forever and a day. Then when we move on to Genesis 39, it says, in Egypt the Lord was with Joseph, and he excelled as a slave. Potiphar put him in charge of his entire household, and everything prospered under Joseph's management. However, Potiphar's wife repeatedly tried to seduce him, and Joseph refused, citing loyalty to God and his master. And she falsely accused him of assault, using his cloak as evidence, quote unquote. And then Potiphar had Joseph thrown into prison. I feel like a lot of even that kind of stuff happens today, where like the guy is like, whoa, I'm not trying to do anything. And the girl's like, well, you said no. So actually, so again, like we look at all this stuff that happens in the Bible and we're like, man, that's crazy that happened. But it still happens today. Some things, yeah. So, but it's good that, you know, Joseph chose, and again, we'll talk about it more later, but we see that Joseph chose like his responsibilities and God over like fleshly desires or temptations. So then we look at Genesis 39 through 40, where it says, but even in prison, the Lord was with Joseph, quote unquote, granting him favor with the warden, who put him in charge of all the prisoners. 2 of Pharaoh's officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, were imprisoned and had troubling dreams. So Joseph interpreted them accurately. The cupbearer would be restored in 3 days, and the baker would be executed. And this came true, but the cupbearer forgot to mention Joseph to Pharaoh for 2 full years. Sorry. 2 things. One, I found a TikTok that I may put up, I may not put up. If it is, here it is.
In the Bible, Joseph was blessed with an amazing ability to interpret everyone's dreams and how they were by praying to God. And after his brothers faked his death and sold him into slavery to the Pharaoh, he was imprisoned. And while he was in prison, he was interpreting people's dreams. But what I find so funny is how casual he was when he was telling everybody their dream, like no matter what it was. Like it was fun. I'll show you.
Hey, Joseph, I had a really weird dream. You think if I tell you, you could interpret it?
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Okay. I had a dream that I was serving the Pharaoh again, and then I was pouring him a drink. What do you think that means?
Okay. Let me check my sources. Thank you. What is he doing? Shh. Let him cook. Jeez, fine.
Okay, it's pretty easy. In 3 days, the Pharaoh is gonna free you. He's gonna restore you. And you're gonna be serving him again.
No really? Shot. Let's go. Yeah, give me something. Yup.
Hey, Joseph, what about me? Think you can interpret if I tell you?
Okay, yeah, for sure. Tell me about it.
I had a dream. 3 baskets with bread on my head. It was birds eating them. What do you think that means?
That's a bit weird. Okay. All right. My sources real quick. Jeez, okay.
You sure?
Oh, yeah, you might be good. That's not good.
Okay. In 3 days, you're gonna get your head cut off.
Oh, yeah, okay. Wow.
Anyone else?
I want to go now.
Can you imagine, right? Being in the baker's position of like, oh yeah, man, the cupbearer, dude, he just got restored. You know, I'm going to tell him my dream. And then Joseph's like, yeah, bro, you're going to like die. And it's like, oh, because Joseph wasn't like, he wasn't subtle about it either. Like he would just tell you like, oh yeah, you're going to die.
Straight up.
Yeah. So yeah. And can you also imagine being the cupbearer being like, oh man, I hope the baker gets, you know, put back, and then Joseph's like, yeah, you're gonna die, and the cupbearer's just like, ooh, that's awkward.
See you on the other side. I
yeah,
guess.
for real. And And then, can you imagine being Joseph being like, oh man, I helped those guys out. And then you get forgotten about for 2 full years. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. But he still had love and respect for God, and he wasn't angry about it. He was just like, well, it is what it is. So then looking at Genesis 41, it says, at age 30, Pharaoh had 2 disturbing dreams: 7 fat cows eaten by 7 gaunt ones, and 7 plump heads of grain devoured by 7 thin ones. And no one could interpret them. But then the cupbearer finally remembered Joseph, and he was brought from prison. And says that Joseph credited God and interpreted the dreams as 7 years of abundant harvest, followed by 7 years of famine. And now he advised Pharaoh to appoint a wise man to store grain during the good years. And Pharaoh was impressed, and he appointed Joseph as second in command over all of Egypt, giving him his signet ring, fine linen robes, a gold chain, a chariot, and authority second only to Pharaoh's. And Joseph received a new Egyptian name. Let's see if we can pronounce this. Zephanath Paneah, something like that. And he married Asenath, daughter of a priest, and had 2 sons. Manasseh, God has made me forget all my troubles. That's like the meaning of the name Manasseh. And Ephraim, which means God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering. And then looking at Genesis 41, 46 through 57, it says that Joseph was now about 30-ish, and he traveled throughout Egypt, overseeing massive grain storage in cities during the severe plentiful years. And we're told that the harvests were so abundant that they stopped measuring the grain. And it says that Egypt became a place of bountiful harvest while the famine loomed. God blessed Joseph so much that there was so much grain that they couldn't count it. That's over the various places that they were storing grain. So they literally had so much that they just couldn't keep track of it. So that just shows how much God was with Joseph in that moment. Now, in Genesis 42 through 45, we get to the kind of main point that we're going to talk about for today's episode, and that is the testing of Joseph's brothers, and kind of the whole theme of forgiveness that we're going to talk about in terms of the life lessons and servant leadership qualities later on. So in Genesis 42, kind of the first part, it says that Jacob sends his 10 older sons to Egypt to buy grain during the famine. And then they bow down before Joseph, fulfilling his old dreams, right? Call back to earlier when Joseph was 17, about when he talked about the first dream of all his brothers bowing down before him, and that becomes fulfilled later on. They bow down before Joseph, but they don't recognize that it's Joseph. But Joseph knows them immediately, and he accuses them of being spies and imprisons them briefly, and he holds Simon hostage and demands they return with Benjamin to prove their story. So he secretly returns their money in their sacks, stirring guilt and fear. So he makes them think oh, did we actually steal something, or did somebody put something in our bags? What the heck happened? Mm-hmm. So then continuing on with Genesis 42, it says the brothers go back to Canaan and report to Jacob, who refuses to send Benjamin at first and discovers the money, increasing their distress. So they reflect on their past sin against Joseph. They're like, oh crap, hey, you remember how we killed our brother? Yeah, I think that's God's finally catching up to us. So continuing on, man, my phone keeps going off. I'm just so popular. Okay. Sorry. Looking at Genesis 43 through 44, it says as the famine worsens, I don't know.
Worsens.
They return with Benjamin. Joseph hosts them warmly at a feast, giving Benjamin extra portions, and he releases Simon and again hides their money in the sacks. Before they leave, he plants a silver cup in Benjamin's sack. When accused of theft, the brothers are brought back, and Judah pleads passionately, offering himself in Benjamin's place to spare Jacob grief, showing real change in their character. And that was kind of the whole thing of why Joseph did what he did in the first place. He wanted to see if his brothers had really changed from when he had last saw them. If, they're still the same crappy brothers that threw him into the cistern, or if they've genuinely grown since when he last saw them. And it says in Genesis 45 that Joseph was so overcome with emotion that he clears the room and reveals his identity. And he says, I am Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And he weeps and forgives them fully and explains God's purpose. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to save many lives. And he assures them the famine has 5 more years and invites the whole family to move to Egypt for provision and protection. So, looking afterwards, again, after the testing, it says that Jacob and about 70 family members relocate to Goshen in Egypt. Pharaoh welcomes them. Joseph provides for them during the famine. And it says that during that time, Joseph manages Egypt's economy, selling grain and eventually land or livestock to Pharaoh. And then in Genesis 48 through 49, Jacob adopts Joseph's sons Manasseh and Ephraim, blesses all his sons prophetically, including future tribes, and requests burial in Canaan before dying at 147.
Oh, he old.
Yeah, he old. And like, okay, wasn't the oldest guy in the Bible like 990? Somewhere around there. Yeah, but he was at least 900. So like they were living for a long time back then. And then it says in Genesis 50, Joseph buries Jacob in Canaan, and the brothers fear revenge. So Joseph reassures them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." And he cares for them until his death at 110, asking his bones be taken to Canaan later. So again, that's the general story of Joseph, and kind of the whole main takeaway. Well, there's 2 really. The first one is that no matter your situation, give glory to God and praise him throughout it all. And the second thing is to choose forgiveness above all else. Like no matter like if your brothers sell you into slavery, right? As we see with Joseph, right? Choose forgiveness and choose to love them over hatred or revenge or whatever else that you could do. Just choose to love them and forgive them. So Jay, do you want to go over the life lessons we have for today?
For sure. First life lesson is trust God's sovereignty through suffering. As Genesis 50:20 tells us, Joseph's betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment were all part of God's plan to save many lives. And the lessons for our life is, even when life seems unfair, trust that God is working for good behind the scenes.
Yeah, I like that because it's a reminder that just because we're going through a hard situation doesn't mean that God isn't with us, right? God is always there with us through the good and the bad, but it's whether or not we choose to give praise to him. That's what's important, right? What does our heart immediately go to whenever bad things happen in our lives? Do we think about like, oh, why could God do this to us? Why is this happening? Or are we thinking about, God, thank you for another day that you breathed air into my lungs? Because that in and of itself is a blessing. Right. So I think that's a really good life lesson.
I think sometimes we can be so quick to anger and to judgment that we run away instead of look towards God. You know, when we look towards God in our struggles, he can bring us peace. He can make the suffering less suffering, I guess. Well, I guess you still got to suffer. But like, you know what I mean?
He makes it easier to endure the suffering.
Yes.
Not necessarily that you suffer less.
That's what I mean, yes. So you don't have to endure alone.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely.
Onward and so forth.
Oh my gosh, even the onward.
Hold on to integrity no matter the cost. Joseph refused Potiphar's wife's advances, choosing to honor God over temporary gain, even though it led to his imprisonment. And that's in Genesis 39. Our lesson for us is character is worth more than comfort or shortcuts.
Yeah. Don't give in to any kind of temptation if it means that, you're sacrificing anything to do with God. Right? If you're given the opportunity to do something, but it comes at the cost of sacrificing your relationship with God or just anything to do with God at all, then don't take that because it's not worth it in the long run, right? If you're sacrificing God just for something in this world that's so temporary it doesn't even matter, even in this world, then why? Like it doesn't matter. So choose when you have the opportunity to either choose God or choose the world. Choose God in every instance. Right.
And I just think we also got to mention like the strength behind that, because number one, I guess her husband is in a position of power above Joseph, right? And so, you know what I'm saying? Like, she probably wasn't ugly or nothing. You know, that's all I'm saying. But that strength, he's got more than a lot of people in today's time.
Oh, yeah.
To keep his integrity and, you know, not to give in to that temptation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's better than most people nowadays. Because not even just with guys, like girls can fall into that as well, right? Of just, if given the opportunity, then they take it. But that's not necessarily what it's about. Just because you're given an opportunity doesn't mean you should take it. Hey, it's like the saying, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Just because you
right?
can doesn't mean you should. Mm-hmm.
So I think that even just that quote in and of itself can apply to our lives, of just because you can doesn't mean you should, in terms of anything to do with the world and God.
Yeah. But you know what you should do? You should serve with excellence in every season. Whether as a slave in Potiphar's house, a prisoner, or Egypt's ruler, Joseph worked diligently and brought success to those over him. And the lesson is, do your best right where you are. God often uses faithful service to open new doors.
Right? You don't need to have all the best things or have all the newest things or be in the best area. Like, you can be in the worst area possible, but God will still work through that, right? You don't have to have the newest or best of anything for God to work through you, right? Majority of the time, it's when you have all the worst stuff and when you're at your lowest that God works through you, right? So don't think that just because you're in a bad situation that God isn't going to come through or provide for you, right? There's a season. There's always going to be seasons in our lives, and even if you're in a season of challenges or trials, then God will still be there, even if it may not be how you expect it or want it.
Right. Even when everything is going terribly and that parlay did not hit, you still need to serve with excellence.
Jay, what are you parlaying on?
just everyday bets, mostly pool. I'm a chronic bettor.
Yeah. This dude is always downstairs playing pool, and well, no, you've actually won a good few. You've won a few times. You beat that one guy.
Oh, yeah, I've got like $60. I lost like 20 though. I ain't gonna lie.
Hey, that's still a net positive though.
That's still a positive. But yeah, back to that. God also calls us to submit to the authority in our life, not to like worship them, like that we saw like Daniel did. Well, what he did not do, more to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, just we don't always gotta be like Avengers, you know. Joseph made a life for himself, even though he was in a tough situation.
Absolutely.
What we can also do is choose forgiveness over revenge. After years of pain, Joseph forgave his brothers completely, providing for them and saying God turned their evil into good. Genesis 45:50.
45 and 50.
And 50.
Yeah,
not 45:50. Is there any 50?
I don't even know.
I don't think so. Regardless of the point. I wish for that kind of forgiveness. I feel like I'm pretty quick to forgive, I would say, most of the time. But to forgive and forget, I guess don't forget, just don't let it hold you back.
Yeah. Or don't let it control you.
Yes.
Don't let it be the sole reason that you go about life.
But really releasing that bitterness, it can bring healing and it can restore relationships as well.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, I feel like some people, maybe not on this campus currently, but some people on this campus really need to hear that, because we won't name names.
I really need to hear that.
We're not gonna name drop. Well, I will name drop Jay, but there are. I'm gonna tell this story, but I'm not gonna say who it is for the sake of integrity. But there was a person on this campus whose whole thing was talking about God's purpose on my life is to spread hate, and it's like no it's not actually. So I feel like there are some people on this campus who definitely need to be preached to about forgiveness, because and like that even applies to me. Like, I'm not saying that in the terms of like, oh, I'm so good about forgiving. Like, no, like I need to hear that as well, because like I'm really bad about like holding grudges against people or not forgiving as quickly as I should. So when looking at Joseph, it gives me the motivation to want to forgive people more, because it's like, well, Joseph got literally sold into slavery and got accused of sexual assault and got thrown in prison for years and years and years. So like when I look at my life, I'm like, how am I not forgiving people, but Joseph is? So it gives me the motivation to want to forgive people because my situation is a whole lot
better. I would say.
a whole lot better, and yet I can't forgive people. So it gives me the motivation to do that.
Yeah, I just think it's crazy because he not only forgave, but he also persevered patiently and waited in God's timing. More than 20 years passed between Joseph's dreams and their fulfillment, with long periods of waiting and forgotten promises. And our lesson is stay faithful and hopeful. God's promises unfold in his perfect time.
Oh, yeah. Like, just because God's timeline isn't our timeline doesn't mean that good things won't happen, right? Like, we always assume that just because it doesn't happen when we want it, that it will never happen. And that's not true, right? That's not true by any sense. Just because A, it may not happen when we want it to, or B, it may not happen how we expect it to, doesn't mean it won't happen at all. Right? God could do more than what we expected. God could do less than we expected, but that doesn't mean that God won't move or God won't work in our lives. It just means that it may not be how we expect it, right? But God has a plan for our life, and even though it may not go 100% how we want, God will still provide for us regardless, right? And I think that's a big thing to remember, because sometimes we even take that for granted, right? We think that, sorry, lost what I was going to say. We think that just because, bad things happen, or, we go through challenges, that God isn't moving or God isn't working in our life. But most of the time it's actually the opposite. Like Job, for instance, right? God allowed those things to happen in his life to prove the genuineness of his faith. So who knows, maybe even the things that you could be going through right now could be testing the genuineness of your faith. And the more you persevere through that, and the more you trust in God and have faith in him, the more that, kind of like you said, not necessarily that trials get easier or you face less trials, but they become easier to endure.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have someone to rely on, and you know that someone is with you through those trials.
I think what's really hard for me is the waiting part. Like I'm a chronic Amazon shopper. Like I like to have it the next day, that Prime subscription. Who's eating my wallet, but it's worth it though. It's worth it.
Because God doesn't necessarily work on same day delivery, right? Sometimes it can be a pre-order. Sometimes it can just be you liking the pre-order and waiting for the pre-order to come out, right? But it could be next day shipping. It could be 2 years. Yeah. But as long as you're trusting that he will deliver regardless, then that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's really about that trust.
So now that we went over kind of the life lessons that we can apply to our lives when looking at Joseph, Jay, do you want to go over some of the leadership qualities of Joseph?
Yeah, for sure. I think he definitely served with integrity and moral faithfulness. Joseph refused Potiphar's wife's advances to honor God and his master, preserving his character even at great personal cost. And that's in Genesis 39.
Yeah. I mean, like kind of like we said, it's so... Like, in the moment, when you think about it, you're like, oh, yeah, I would have done that. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's so easy to do. But, like we said, this wasn't the first time, right? Like, she had done it multiple times. Like, she kept egging it on and egging it on. And the only time that she said anything that time is because she had an excuse against him to finally, like, blame him, quote unquote, for something that he didn't even do. So... But we put ourselves up on a pedestal and we think that we're so good of like, oh, I would never do that. Like, I would do exactly what Joseph did. But honestly, sometimes we even lie to ourselves in that sense. Like, if you were in that situation, like, what would you truly do?
Right.
So the fact that Joseph was able to have so much moral integrity and able to resist that temptation of his earthly desires and his flesh is so impressive and something that we should model in our own lives.
Yeah, I would just say it takes me back again to, you ever watch Family Matters, Terry?
I think so.
Or like Steve Urkel?
Yeah.
So the whole thing of the show is that he likes Laura, but Laura doesn't like him. And so every now and then he'll go, I'm wearing you down, baby, wearing you down. And I was just thinking about that. She's been doing this multiple times. Like, You don't think he was feeling the pressure, like he was getting like wearing him down a little bit?
Yeah.
But even through that, he still resisted.
Well, see, and here's another thing, right? Like it's Potiphar's wife. So kind of like you said, like A, she's probably pretty good looking, right? And B, she's got some like high authority, right? It's Potiphar's wife, so that means that she has at least around the same amount of power that he does, or at least somewhere close.
She has his ear, is what you would say. Like, you probably listen to her.
So it's like, again, she has like some dominion, at least over Joseph. So like, she could have had him thrown in jail just for saying no, right? So the fact that he was able to choose all of this moral integrity and faithfulness, despite all of the backlash that he could have and did face, right, is so impressive.
Next, we want to look at his humility and just giving credit to God. As Egypt's ruler, he gave God full credit for his abilities, saying interpretations belong to God, not himself.
Oh, yeah. Because it says that Pharaoh first brought in a bunch of magicians and people who probably would have not called upon God. They probably would have called upon false idols or even potentially demons to try and interpret these dreams. But when we look at Joseph, he could have just as easily been like any of the magicians and been like, oh, well, I don't think, or I think this, or I think that, or I can't do this. He's like, no, like I'm doing this solely by the power of God, and it's all through God that I'm able to interpret these dreams. So that is a good leadership quality of him being humble enough to not take credit for something that is all truly just God, right? Because sometimes we take for granted the abilities that God gives us, or at the very least we put ourselves up on a pedestal in that sense of like, oh, well, God gave me this, so like look at what I can do. But it's like, no, God gave you that, so give praise to him because of that, right? Like he gave you that ability, so use that ability, or at the very least, if you're talking about it, give glory to him.
Yeah, I just think a lot of times we don't really think about, like you said, Terry, the skills that he gives us to give thanks for those skills. I just think back to nursing, because that's my whole life right now.
Just comes full circle.
Every test, man, I thank God that I passed. And if I didn't pass, thank God that he let me get this far, you know?
I know.
But yeah, just remembering to give God the thanks and the glory, even when like people are praising you and they're like, woohoo, like, yeah, let's go, Terry, that was a good worship session right there. You know what I'm saying? You just get to your head a little bit.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, and honestly, if like going back to my worship leadership, right, I'll pull a U card, right? That's why I kind of like being on keys specifically every now and then, because it gives me the opportunity to not have people come up to me and be like, oh, you did so amazing. Oh my gosh, that was so, like, you sang so well, like, or like you led so well. And it's like, it's nice to just be on keys and not necessarily be the center of attention and let God be the center and not have to worry about, oh, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. It's just like, no, I'm just playing music that's giving glory to God. And that's just what I'm doing and what I'm focusing on, and not like, oh, well, I'm doing so great and this and that.
Yeah. I just think Joseph really showed excellence in diligent service. He served faithfully and skillfully in every role, slave, prisoner, and administrator, causing success for those he served. And that'll be...
no, go ahead.
Oh, but say quite a few verses.
Oh, yeah. Actually, just generally in Genesis 39 and 41. Because I didn't realize how many verses that actually is. But yeah, like whatever role Joseph had, he made the best out of the situation, and God was faithful and like worked through him incredibly. Like when he was a slave with Potiphar, God blessed him. When he was in the prison, God blessed him. When he was ruler over Egypt, God blessed him. Like whatever role he was in, God blessed him and was plentiful through him, right? So what is to say that God can't do the same for you in whatever situation that you're in, right? But it's also the same thing of God can work through you, but are you being faithful enough to trust in him despite your situation? Right? Like God was faithful and plentiful through Joseph because he had an abundance of faith. Right. So are you having that same amount of faith despite your situation?
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that you can ask yourself throughout the week or whenever you're facing a difficult situation.
Yeah, and I just, like, what comes to mind right away is faithful with a little, faithful with a lot. Like, he probably started scrubbing floors.
Oh, yeah.
And then look, he was faithful with a little bit, so God gave him a little bit more. Maybe this time he ain't scrubbing the floors with his hands. Maybe he got a mop this time.
Hey.
And God moved him up again.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe now he's over all the household servants.
Yeah.
And then up again. And then now he's standing in front of the crowds.
Come on now.
Talking about grain.
Talking
about grain.
Talking about grain.
Yeah, but just the main thing you got to get out of what I'm saying is just be faithful with what you got. Because, like I said, God doesn't give you more you can handle. And if he sees you're faithful with a little bit, he'll make you faithful with a lot.
Absolutely.
All right. Next, I think another good quality is his selflessness for others' benefit. Joseph used his power to save Egypt and his family during the famine. During
the what?
The famine.
The famine?
The famine? Is it famine?
It's famine.
Oh, okay. Joseph used his power to save Egypt and his family during the famine. The famine. I don't know what to talk about. Prioritizing their survival and provision over personal gain. And that's in Genesis 41 verses 45 to 47.
That's still incorrect, but it's fine.
If you realize
it's a semicolon, so it's like chapters 41, 45 through 47.
This is the whole chapter.
Yeah, it's the whole chapters because that's
what happened in 42 to 44.
I think it talks about Joseph's brothers. I don't think it actually talks about it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Sorry, I'm getting confused about the punctuation.
No, it's fine.
That's a different
it's
thing.
fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Onward and so forth.
Stop saying onward. Okay. So yeah, Joseph definitely had a lot of selflessness, and I think his selflessness became it was a gradual process, or at the very least he didn't have it in the beginning. Because when we look at Joseph, right, we tend to fall into kind of the same habits that he does when he was really young. Because it says that when he was 17, he told his brothers about his dream. And he may not have meant it, but it did come across as kind of him boasting about his dream and look what I'm doing. And again, even though he may not have meant it in that way, that's how it came across. And we can fall into that as well. We can brag about what God is doing in our lives or how, he's working or what he's done for us. And it can come off as bragging. Right? It can come off as, oh, well, I'm amazing because God's done this in my life. But that's not necessarily true. But it still happens regardless. But as we look at Joseph, I think throughout the trials that he faced, the more and more he realized that, I'm not doing this because, or at the very least, I shouldn't go around bragging about what God's doing, but instead show people the gifts that he's given me and just be a humble servant of those gifts, right? To not necessarily keep flaunting it, but to show the goodness of God through what he's blessed me with.
Yeah, I just think often you don't think of Joseph as prideful, obviously, because he was down at the bottom and he worked his way up. So I think with that comes humility. But before then, like I said, he was his father's favorite. That definitely would have brought a little pride to my situation for sure. And I got a special coat that they don't got.
Hey,
I'm about to let them know about that. And then he just iced it off with the interpretations in the dreams. And so basically, what I'm just saying is that. Sorry, I forgot where I was at.
It's okay. I'll just cut all of this out.
Okay,
it's fine.
Where am I at?
Selflessness from others' benefit?
I totally just blinked. I have no idea where I was going with that. I was going somewhere.
Okay.
We're just gonna onward and so forth. You really hate it? You really hate it saying that?
I don't hate onward. It's just
so forth.
Just keep going. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Next
up is forgiveness and reconciliation. He forgave his brothers fully, declaring God turned their evil into good to preserve many lives, choosing restoration over revenge. Genesis 45, 50, verse 20.
There you go. See,
I'm reading the punctuation now.
yeah, now you learn how a semicolon works.
Hey, listen, okay. Don't be using those semicolons. I hate them.
But yeah, Joseph had a level of forgiveness that I don't think most of us in this day and age could ever have. Like, again, his brothers tried to kill him and wanted to kill him. And if it wasn't for Reuben, they probably would have killed him. But they didn't. But they still sold him into slavery for, again, 20 pieces of silver, which isn't a lot.
Kind of crazy.
That's honestly probably less than that coat that he was wearing was worth. But the fact that he was still willing to forgive them for, like, what they did to him is incredible. Mm-hmm. Like, he had so much power in Egypt that the only thing that separated him from Pharaoh was the throne, right? So if he wanted to, the second they walked into wherever they were to ask Joseph for food, he could have had them instantly killed. Instantly. Right. He wouldn't have even needed a reason. He could have just killed them in that second. But he didn't. He did, and the only reason, again, that he tested them was because he wanted to see if their character had changed, right? Mm-hmm. If they had grown, if they had, moved on from the people that they were. And they had, thankfully, and Joseph was able to reconcile with them and to love them and forgive them. Mm-hmm. And he still probably would have forgiven them regardless. Even maybe if they hadn't changed character, he may have even still forgiven them, but we won't know. But we can assume, based off Joseph's godly character, that he most likely would have. Right. But, again, to go back, Joseph had so much forgiveness for people that had hurt him. And we need to have that kind of forgiveness as well, because there will always be people who hurt us, and there will always be people who think they know what's right or do things to us that hurt us, and it's so hard to forgive them, right? Mm-hmm. It's easy to forgive them once, but it's hard to continuously forgive them, right? Like to have a forgiveness that continues to go on and on and on, right? And I think, like, and I'm saying that, like, as someone like myself who struggles with that, right? Like, I can forgive a person once, but it's continuing to forgive them and love them and show them, like, the kindness and mercy and love that God has, and not just be like, okay, well, I've forgiven you once, but now I'm going to continue to hate on you. Like, no, that, like, God tells us to love 70 times 7, like 490 times. But again, even then we're supposed to love more than that, like just a huge amount, like an infinite amount of times we're supposed to love someone, because that's what God does for us, right? Like, he loves us so much and continues to forgive us, because there's so many things that we could just instantly be sent to hell or be condemned for anything that we do. So who are we to judge someone or hate on someone for what they do to us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just think, again, it's really important to note that he not only forgave them, but he embraced them as well. I don't know how many people, like, I see it on Instagram sometimes, but I don't know, that could be scripted. But it's like when someone like tries to hurt your family member, right? And they're in court, and then they're like, oh yeah, can I give them a hug? Can I give them a hug? I don't think people do it in real life. I ain't gonna lie. But he forgave them, looked past attempted murder, and even though he didn't get murdered, he got sold and thrown up in the dry. What is it called? A cistern?
A cistern?
How deep are those?
It's about as deep as a well is, so at least like 20 feet.
Yeah, so that's crazy. He broke his leg probably, but that's besides the point. But like I'm saying, I don't know if I have that kind of forgiveness in me, but I would hope to. Mm-hmm. So Terry, now we're gonna move on to the reflection questions. So Terry, how does his story relate to your servant leadership?
In terms of my servant leadership, he shows, again, a lot of just forgiveness and love for people who, in his eyes, may not have deserved it. Or, he could have so easily killed his brothers when they entered the palace or wherever they were, right? But he didn't, and he chose to love them. And I think that in terms of my servant leadership, I need to apply that more to my life, because it's so easy to show love to people who you care about and, hate on the people that you don't care about, right? But God calls us to love everyone equally, to love your neighbor as yourself, right? So don't just care about the people that you care about, but care about everybody, right? Even if you may not like them, even if you may have some kind of vendetta against them, even if you don't have a reason to love them or care about them, still show them that love, right? And that, again, that's something that I just need to remember throughout my walk and throughout my servant leadership. So I would say that. But Jay, what about you? What would you say?
I would just say mostly serve with integrity. Okay, if you do something wrong, don't be afraid to own up to it. Okay, and also if you're accused of doing something wrong, okay, we're gonna still stand in humility. I'm not saying don't fight for yourself, but I'm saying don't let that provoke unrighteous anger out of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like don't try and make the other person seem bad.
Right.
Like don't be like, oh well, that person is terrible. They did this and this and this. It's like, no, don't do that.
Don't stand firm.
That's showing your character more than anything. So yeah, that's a good question, Jay. Okay, Jay, I'll ask you the question this time.
Okay.
What is your heart posture towards challenging situations? And kind of to expand upon that, do you get upset at God or rejoice for things he has blessed you with despite the challenges?
I'm one of those people, I kind of like to thug it out, if you know what I mean. Like just go through it. But I think I don't blame God. It's just I don't look to God during those situations. I'm just like, I can do it myself. But I guess in the way that is like, oh, I don't trust God to handle that, so I'll do it myself. Like, I can carry me through this myself. I don't really need God's help with that.
Yeah.
And so I just think that can often be my way that I look at it. What about you?
I would say I fall into a pretty similar category of just like not necessarily getting upset at God, because I would say I've never really been like, why God did you let this happen? But I have definitely questioned God, and I have definitely been like, God, why would you let this happen? And like, what is the purpose of this going on in my life? But I would say that, again, more recently, I've just tried to put my full reliance and trust in God, because I've learned through falling that the more trust you put in yourself, the easier it is to fall, and the more likely you are to fall. So the more trust and faith you put in God, the easier it is to endure those challenging times, right? It doesn't mean that the challenging times won't happen. It just means that you will have somebody and something to rely on during those times. So I would say that. And again, and to answer the expansion of that question, I'd try my best, my hardest to focus on the things God has blessed me with. Because like I said, right, we take for granted the air that we breathe in every day, right? The fact that we get to wake up is a privilege that some people don't have, right? So we can't help but be thankful for it. Like the fact that we get to go to a school where we get a higher education, the fact that we have food in our stomachs, clothes on our bodies, right? A car to drive, right? Those are all blessings that we have. And so we should, and we can't help but be thankful for those things. So Jay, I'll ask this last one, right? Do you have forgiveness like Joseph? And are you willing to forgive people who have hurt you?
I would say my forgiveness definitely isn't as strong as Joseph's, but I would say typically I'm pretty forgiving. I try not to hold a grudge. It's just, it takes a lot of effort to hold a grudge, to hold hatred in your heart against somebody else. And at the end of the day, I always come back to, we all sin and we all hurt each other. Not hurt each other like everybody hurts everybody. It's just, whether intentionally or not, we are sinners, so it's going to happen. Yeah. And I just think of the way I like to be treated if I accidentally hurt someone. Or I guess even if I did it on purpose and then realize what I was doing afterwards. Just that they have a posture of forgiveness and that I could reconcile with them. What about you, Terry?
I would say I need to have it more often, because I don't. I choose to hold a grudge because it's easier to do that. Okay. But I need to just, or at the very least, just not like condemn people or hold, not grudges, but just not judge people so much and just love them and forgive them.
Yeah.
Like, again, I am no better of a person than they are.
Right.
I still sin. I still fall short. I still have my things that I battle with, and they may as well. So who am I to throw the first stone, right? It says, or Jesus tells us that he who is blameless, let him throw the first stone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to throw it.
No, ain't me.
Right? And it's not, I'm not even in the top 100. I'm not even in the top 1,000. I'm not in the million or billion. Like, I'm nowhere near perfect, right? Not even close. But I need to just choose love in more situations rather than condemnation or judging or anything close to that, because who am I to judge a sinner? Who am I as a sinner to judge another sinner? Right. Like, I'm looking at the dust in someone else's eye when there's a plank in my own. Right. So who am I to judge? Right. And I think just the biggest thing is that I just need to have a more loving heart in more situations, or in every situation, not most. So I think, unless you have anything else to add, that's it.
Don't think so. That wraps up our reflection questions. Yeah.
I think today was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were a lot of good things we talked about, a lot of good subjects. So without further ado, Jay, do you want to pray us out, or do you want me to?
I can start. We can hit the
Okay.
good old popcorn.
All right. We can hit it. So, if you can, please don't bow your head and do whatever. Don't close your eyes if you're praying, or if you're driving. Sorry. Don't like distract yourself from driving. If you're listening to this while driving, don't close your eyes. But sorry.
They can't.
Also, just as a quick final note, I don't know if you could tell, but I finished an energy drink right before this recording. So if you hear me like talk fast at all, that is the entire reason why. Or if I like stutter over my words, that's also why. But, Jay, would you like to start us out?
All right, guys, if you can pray with me. Lord, I just pray that I can have forgiveness like Joseph, Lord. Mm-hmm. That I can let go of any past transgressions against me, Lord. And I just pray that others can also learn to do the same. I just pray that I can not only forgive, Lord, but reconcile with that person and just show them Jesus, Lord, because I think that's what he does for us every day. He died on the cross for our sins, Lord, and we continue to sin. He took the ultimate cost, Lord, and gave his life. And I'm going to tell a lie about things that don't really matter. And he still loves me through that all. And so, Lord, I just say, just give me some grace, Lord, and that I can extend that to other people.
Absolutely. And Lord, I just pray that you give me a humble heart, God, that I don't boast about the gifts that you bless me with, Lord, and that I don't go around telling people the things that you've done for me, but I let my actions and let the words that I speak reflect you, God, that I'm not going around boasting of, what I can do and what, the gifts that you bless me with, but that I let my actions and let everything that I do reflect you, and that I let your blessings flow through me through the actions that I do. And like Jay said, Lord, I pray that you give me a heart that wants to love and forgive unconditionally, Lord. That no matter how people have hurt me, no matter what anybody has done to me, no matter what grudge I could hold against them, God, I pray that I am just able to love them truly and forgive them despite anything that they may have done to me, Lord. That even though it's easier to hate and even though it's easier to hold that grudge, Lord, I pray that I'm able to just truly care about them and love them and show the mercy and love and forgiveness that you constantly show us, God. That I'm able to choose love because you chose love first, Lord. That you chose to go on a cross and be condemned and be slain for our sake, and just that your blood was spilled for us, God. So I pray that I'm able to show the same kind of love to other people that you showed us. God, I pray that whoever's listening be blessed and encouraged in the words that we speak, Lord. And I pray that as we all go out and as we all go through the rest of this day, Lord, that we are just able to be true reflections of you, Lord, that we are able to reflect your love and mercy and kindness and forgiveness and charity in all that we do, Lord, and that we are just able to give glory to you in all that we do. And I just pray all these things in your wonderfully glorious name, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
All right, well, we will catch y'all on the next episode.
Peace out, everybody.